Hello, everyone. Welcome to Faculty Spotlights for the College of Professional Psychology at the Chicago School. Today, we are joined by Dr. Maureen Keeshin, the Department Chair of our Master of Arts in Counseling Psychology program. Welcome, Dr. Keeshin.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. So, Dr. Keeshin, would you tell us a little bit about the path that you took to get to where you are right now as a psychologist?
Yeah, sure, of course. I guess I'll back way up and start with my initial interest in the field of psychology, which started when I was pretty young teenager. My grandfather was actually diagnosed with Alzheimer's dementia
Mm,
when I was a teenager. And obviously that spurred in me interest in the brain and some of the
yeah,
neurocognitive effects. But I would say more importantly than that, I was really moved by the impact and the toll it took on the family members that were caring
hmm
for him during that time. And
yeah,
so that really kind of spurred my interest, I would say, in finding ways to support others in need beyond just kind of the person with
yeah.
the condition. So,
Yeah, that's something that um, can get overlooked, that caregiver stress.
yeah.
And I can see how kind of being in the midst of that and then getting exposed to the field at an early age could spur on a deeper interest in becoming a psychologist.
Yes, absolutely. It was interesting because for me, my grandmother took on that role of caregiver, like you said, and the
Hmm
stress and the impact with that. And kind of refused to put him into any assisted living and just,
Yeah,
as somebody who was aging herself, it takes a
yeah,
toll and
it's
just
hard.
and observing that was eye-opening for me
Yeah,
as the granddaughter role, but that continued then to spur my interest in taking psychology courses, both in high school and then in my undergraduate studies. And then I guess the
yeah,
rest is history in some ways.
yeah. So, as the department chair, you spend a lot of time working with students and faculty, obviously. Could you tell us a little bit about what it is you enjoy most when it comes to working with students?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I guess first I would say I'm really inspired by
Hmm
the students that join our program. They really come with a relentless passion and drive for helping others in need. I feel incredibly privileged to be in a position to help train that next generation of mental health clinicians. And
hmm
I also feel a sense of obligation to pass along some of the lessons I've learned from my own mentors and my own advisors when I was in my own training, and also just really enjoy learning from kind of the new perspectives and experiences from that newer generation that are coming into this field much later than I did. So that's, I would say, what I enjoy the most about my role and being at the school and the department serving students in that way.
You touched on a couple of things that I really love and that I hear again and again as I speak to faculty and department chairs, and it's that the students serve as a source of inspiration.
Mhm.
There's like an energizing effect that being around students gives us. And the other part that strikes me, and I've shared this on a number of occasions, is just how much we learn from the students, right? The
Mhm.
students come into the program seeking an education from us, from the faculty, from their training experiences. But
Yes.
one of the beautiful things is just how much they teach us as well.
Yes, and the cycle. So our program itself has now been fortunate to have over 2 decades, over 20
Yeah,
years of graduates that are out there in the field doing the work. And
yeah,
they've now become, the supervisors in clinical director positions that are training and supervising our current students. So you just
yeah.
see that
It's
cycle
a
of kind of
beautiful
continuous
circle.
learning. Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
So, with the students that go through your program, kind of knowing kind of broadly the outcomes and more specifically some of the competencies that you hope they obtain as they go through the program. What are maybe one particular skill or one particular lesson that you hope every student comes away from the program with?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the things that I hope students take away in terms of a lesson is that when you're working with real people, with human beings, what we read in the textbooks don't always play out that way in real
Right. Yeah.
time,
It's so much
right?
cleaner in the book, right?
It is. It is. It looks beautiful. It looks perfect. So I guess the lesson is just the ways in which this field requires us to be creative and
Yeah.
flexible and adaptive in how we approach the people that we're working with.
Yeah.
I also find that students, I think, feel a natural pull earlier in their training to fix things, to
Yeah.
solve problems, and their intent and intention is really pure. It's coming from an innocent place. They
Yeah.
don't want their patients to be in distress. They want to help them feel better. Um, but I always share that the irony in that is that sometimes it doesn't, that fixing
Right.
approach does not produce those desired outcomes. And so I like to teach students about all the kind of indirect forms of helping and counseling,
Yeah.
things just like as simple as validating one's experience and how
Hmm.
that can be so incredibly powerful and healing.
Yeah, that one is so important because I definitely had that
Yeah.
idea in mind. Hey, I'm going to fix some things. I'm going to
Yes.
really help people. And like you said, it's never that clean. It's all shades of gray.
Yes.
And when you go in with that idea that you're going to fix something, you kind of close off space for the patients to find their own path to healing. And that's really, I think, the lesson there, right? Is that we're obviously we go into therapy and assessment as experts in the field, but the biggest part of our job is helping create the space for people to find their own path, not to fix their problems, but to help
Absolutely.
them find a path to fix their problems.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it also just makes me think about how having these conversations with students about just these things also opens up further insights
Hmm.
about just self-awareness, right? And
Yeah.
things like, well, are we wanting to fix things because we're
Yeah.
uncomfortable with our
Right.
patients being in distress? So it
Yeah.
becomes like also a process in just introspection and
Yeah.
reflecting on what about me wanting to fix things is going
Yeah.
on, right? And what is
Why
that?
why do I feel this burning need to fix
Yeah.
things?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Is it about me? Is it about them? How do I figure
Yeah.
that out in a way that
Yeah.
obviously, like you said, we're creating an environment and a space that invites patients to change and to make,
Yeah.
kind of progress on their own areas rather than
Yeah.
us imposing those on others.
Yeah,
So,
and there's real skill and expertise needed just to do that because it's
yes,
so hard
it is
not to bring
hard.
your own stuff into it, but to allow them to have their space for their things.
Absolutely. And it
Yeah,
feels so basic, right? And
it
simple, but it's
does. Seems
not simple
simple.
to do.
So as you think about students out there, maybe we know there's a group of people that are interested in the field. They're looking for programs. They're trying to decide on what their best way forward is in terms of pursuing an education. What would you, what advice would you give students out there or pre-students, people looking for a program as they kind of go through that consideration and decision process?
Yeah, well, and I think we've already kind of talked about some of this, but looking for students entering the field of psychology in general, I think the importance of taking care of oneself and one's own
Mhm.
wellness just can't be underestimated. So
Yeah.
that, which is, also why it's a core area beyond the theory and the skills and the
Yeah.
knowledge that we teach in our program. That really is an emphasis,
Yeah.
making sure students realize they're entering this field at a time where mental health services are desperately needed. Um, But the caveat to that is the work itself can be taxing
Yeah.
and it can be depleting and it can cause burnout if clinicians do not prioritize their own mental health in
Yeah.
addition to kind of learning the skills. So
Yeah.
that's something I would say, regardless of somebody just looking at the field in general. I think a lot of times prospective students or people out there are looking at all the like, what's the curriculum look like? What's it? And those are important factors, but also this other piece of how are you going to sustain yourself to be able to provide the
Yeah.
high quality services to vulnerable communities?
Yeah. Burnout is a very real thing
It
for
is.
everyone, but for clinicians, I mean,
Yes.
it can be dangerous,
Yeah,
right? I mean, you can
absolutely.
really put yourself in a very precarious psychological position if you don't take care of yourself.
Absolutely. And
And if
then,
you
is it unethical then at that point if you're
exactly,
not taking care of yourself to try to care for others in that way,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
right?
it's a great question. If you can't care for yourself, how effectively are you going to help people or help them create the space to care for themselves as well, to
Exactly.
be a facilitator of that?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, kind of last question. We talked about people looking for programs and kind of the skills and the student journey. Why do you think the Chicago School is a good place, a great place for students to consider pursuing their degree?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I recognize I'm coming from a biased perspective
That's
of
okay.
being within the Chicago school, but I also think I have, a good perspective as someone who's been here for 15 years
Yeah.
and have seen countless graduates over the years go through the program, finish the program, working out in the field. I will say that I do not think you can get a more top-notch quality training and education than the Chicago School. I'm always transparent in saying that I know from a financial investment perspective that we are not the most inexpensive program by any means in the area.
Sure.
But I think there's also a cost sometimes to pursuing a program that might be less expensive, but doesn't
Yeah.
come with the same level of quality
Yeah.
and the outcomes that we're finding here at the Chicago School,
Yeah.
and the counseling psychology program is no exception to that.
Yeah, I completely agree. And, kind of going back to the concept of self-care. I think that in your program, Dr. Keeshin, one of the things that I really appreciate is kind of the culture and the environment that you help build for the students. And it really does not, I mean, it's obviously I'm biased as well, right? But it's a great education, it's a great curriculum, fantastic faculty, great department leader, but that all comes together to create a culture for students that I think really does kind of reinforce and help students develop that kind of introspective capacity, the self-care routines, the sense of community that they can rely on as they go through what are the inevitable challenges of getting a graduate degree
Absolutely.
in the field.
Being a graduate student in general. Yeah,
It's
I
just tough.
agree. I agree. It is tough. And, as I said, I've been with the program and with the school for a long time. Similarly, the faculty in the counseling psychology program have also been with the program for over a decade.
Yeah.
So I think that level of consistency and stability has really provided students with a seamless kind of experience in terms of getting ongoing support. We really do, kind of pride ourselves in being accessible,
Hmm.
available to students to support them not only in their academic pursuits and journeys, but also in their own professional development and growth
Yeah.
as people, right? Because this is
Yep.
a transformative field. This is a field
Yes.
that you're not the same as when you start as when you finish. And we always say, and if you are, we haven't done our jobs and you haven't done your job as a
That's right.
student. So I think
Yeah.
that's the other kind of piece of it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I've said it many times to students that I think getting a degree in counseling psychology or clinical psychology or whatever it is, a clinically oriented psychology degree will do more to change the lenses through which you view yourself in the world than almost any other degree.
So true.
It's powerful and wonderful.
It is. Yeah,
Yeah.
it is. I agree.
Well, Dr. Keeshin, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you again for having me. It's been really lovely.
And